Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me once again is my colleague, Forbes staff writer, Zach Everson. Zach, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me back, Brittany.
The last time you and I spoke about Alt 5 Sigma was in October, and just a refresher, Alt 5 Sigma is the fintech company that struck $1 billion deal with World Liberty Financial. As we know, World Liberty Financial is the crypto venture associated with the Trump family. You reported then that Alt 5 Sigma's CEO was suspended by the board. Now you have some new reporting that a discrepancy surrounding the suspension could have violated SEC rules. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so it kind of started off a little bit mysteriously here, where the company submitted this very succinct disclosure to the Securities and Exchange Commission saying that it had suspended its CEO, Peter Tessiopoulos. Now, it didn't give a reason why. It just said he's been suspended. It was effective October 16th. So we ran that story. It's really interesting because it is such a big partner of Donald Trump's crypto venture, World Liberty Financial. They acquired $1.5 billion worth of the World Liberty Financial token. Now, that is a token that has it's intrinsic value. There's nothing backing it up. It doesn't include any ownership in anything. It just gives you voting rights in matters related to that specific venture. So here you had a company that bought $1.5 billion of it. We saw that its stock had crashed since this happened. I think it was down about 70% when we last talked. So, all of a sudden they suspend the CEO. Oh, interesting. Well, this is where it even got more interesting was after we ran that article, we learned that they had actually suspended the CEO in September 4th, 6 weeks earlier than what they informed the SEC, according to an internal message that was sent to employees where it said that the CEO and also the chief revenue officer, who wasn't mentioned at all in any of these SEC filings, had been placed on temporary leave effective September 4th. Again, no reason given at those times, just that there was going to be an inquiry by a special committee of the board.
And so give us some more insight on that internal email dated September 4th. What else did it say?
Yeah, so we had a couple people confirm this for us, and it said that they're on temporary leave. It said don't share this information with anybody, and it's if you have any questions, bring it to our new acting CEO, who is also the chief chief operations officer for the company, Jonathan Hu. Didn't have many details to it at all. Doing a little more reporting, they were able to find out that the suspensions, the special board committee is investigating several different issues related to a filing the company made back in August. One of those looks to be a matter that its subsidiary had in Rwanda, where it had it confiscated and its principal was sentenced to prison. I don't know if that's related to this at all. They didn't say, but it is one of the issues that special committee that is looking into the CEO is also looking into.
So Alt 5 Sigma tells the SEC that the CEO's leave was effective October 16th. Through an internal email, they tell people that work at the company that the leave was on September 4th. I mean, that's not just one day or a couple hours difference. I mean, aside from a month, that's like 6 weeks, as you said, of a difference. Why tell the SEC one thing and then the company the other?
That is a great question. I asked that repeatedly. I did not get an answer to that one. The law is that if they are to suspend, or excuse me, if the CEO is effectively loses those duties, they may keep the title, which is what's happened here, but SEC law and guidance has said that if they effectively lose those duties, they are required to inform the SEC within 4 business days. And clearly, 6 weeks is a little bit longer than that. So not sure exactly what led them to wait so long. If they're saying there's some sort of difference there between placing them on leave and a suspension, not quite sure at all. They didn't come forth with any sort of explanation at all when I reached out.
So September 4th and October 16th, there's way more than a stretch of 4 business days in there. So it appears, based on your reporting, that Alt 5 Sigma violated the SEC rules. How serious is that violation?
They very well may have violated. I spoke to several experts there, talked to a couple professors, as well as somebody who also used to work with the SEC. And one of the things I asked is, can you come up with any sort of scenario where it would be okay for them to do this sort of thing. And the answer would, I didn't get anything back. It was this needed to be put forward. So, whether the SEC is going to investigate, who knows? Whether it would investigate in normal times, don't know. But of course, the SEC is currently overseen by a guy named Paul Atkins, who is an appointee of Donald Trump's, who is a business partner with Alt 5 Sigma. So, not really sure what, if anything, will happen with this.
And so it's unclear if the SEC will investigate. Has Alt 5 Sigma responded to you at all when you've reached out for comment?
So we reached out, did not get a real explanation there at all as to what the reasons were for the suspension or how long this special investigation might take. A World Liberty Financial attorney did tell us, though, that the CEO remains an Alt 5 Sigma employee and he's still on the board. So the suspension, it sounds like it's still ongoing. They did not reach any sort of decision to terminate him. If that's what they end up deciding to do, it hasn't happened yet. Alt 5 Sigma spokesperson, meanwhile, said that the board special committee is investigating, among other matters, the Rwanda thing that we just talked about. But they didn't say if that had anything to do with why the CEO or chief revenue officer were placed on leave.
So CEO, chief revenue officer, both placed on leave. I mean, how is this staffing shakeup impacting Alt 5 Sigma, if at all?
It's tough to say. The stock had been in free fall really ever since it had announced this deal with the Trumps. That has continued. Last I checked, it was down about 80%. I think when we first reported this, it was down around 70% or so. It's a real discrepancy there between the value. Like, it's holding about $1 billion worth of this World Liberty Financial coin, but the company's market cap is only 200 million and change. So it's only worth about 1/4 the market price of those tokens it's holding, which is telling you the market doesn't really think all that much of its business strategy right now. So, it's really tough to pinpoint any sort of rationale as to the stock price. In fact, I think it went up after we reported this. So, who knows?
And then when you're looking at Alt 5 Sigma's relationship with World Liberty Financial, which we know is the crypto venture associated with the Trump family, does this staffing shakeup impact that at all?
Well, there is a lot of overlap there. Not only does Alt 5 Sigma have what's now about $1 billion worth of the World Liberty Financial token, but it's the chairperson of Alt 5 Sigma's board is Zach Witkoff, who is one of the founders of World Liberty Financial. Another guy named Zach Folkman, who is another co-founder of World Liberty, is also a board of director. And then Eric Trump, who also is a co-founder of World Liberty Financial, is an observer on the board. So you've got that overlap there. And then meanwhile, you've got World Liberty Financial, as part of this deal, owns 100 million shares of Alt 5 Sigma. Part of the deal was that Alt 5 Sigma, when it acquired what at the time was $1.5 billion worth of tokens, it's $750 million worth of that tokens it got in a stock swap with World Liberty. The rest of it sold more stock and used that to buy it. So these two companies are really intertwined here in terms of just ownership and management structure.
Well, Zach, I appreciate your reporting as always. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me back.